Hello and welcome back to Sacred Vapes, the channel that aims to bring you views and experiences of products in the market today, brought to you by an average vapor. Now, this week on the pod series, I've got something from a company you may not have heard of. They have been out on the market for a little bit, but this is their pod system that they brought back in November. It is the Kubi by Hotcig. Now, Hotcig, as I say, they're not a household name, so it is not a surprise that they would bring out their own pod system. This, however, I think could potentially have a good niche appeal, mainly because it's something in a design that not many people have really brought to market, and I'll get talking about the niche appeal later on, but potentially could this be a nice little find within the pod market? Before we get talking about that, we'll go into the up close. First, let's have a vape. So here we go for the up close for the Kubi pod system from Hotcig. Now, as you can see from the packaging, nice white clean design. You get your package contents, your technical specifications, scratch code. You get all the different colour options on that side and social media on that side. So we'll get her open now. And what you'll get is the pod itself and the pod mod. Take a look at that in just a second. We'll go inside. You get USB cable on that side. On this, just get her open. You get carrier case, you get a spare pod, and that's about it. No instruction booklets whatsoever. So we'll get talking about the pod now. Now, the Kubi is a 550 mAh internal battery device, chargeable via USB, found on the bottom. Now, you get an indicator light on the front, which we'll show you when we take it back up top, and the pod itself is a 1.7 mil capacity pod. It comes with a 1.8 ohm coil, and it's fillable via the silicone bung, which can be removed, as you can see. You fill it just like that. They're the connections, so sort of sits there on top of the gold connections. You simply push it in and it's ready. So we'll take it back up top now and we'll get talking about it a bit more as a pod system. Welcome back. So yeah, that was the up close for the Kubi. We'll get talking about the pros and cons of this now and whether it actually is a good pod system. First pro for me, it's something I was alluding to at the start, the niche appeal. And it's a design of it. To you, this might not stand out, but for me, the impression I got was that it's almost like a cigarette without it actually looking like one. You know, the cylinder shape, you know, it's all very much in line with the old cigarettes, which, if you don't know what one of them is, going back a good few years ago now, when vaping was still very early in its development, there was almost fake cigarettes that came out, and this, I say, it just remind me of something like that, and that could potentially appeal to people moving from smoking to vaping who don't want a big box or anything that looks over the top, but they want something nice, simple, and something they can get used to. Next pro for me is going to be the flavour of the pod. It's not bad. I'm using a nice sharp citrus flavour in this. And it's a mild flavour, but you are getting the flavour come through because the airflow is so restricted. You know, that's restricting the flavour as you would normally expect, but you are getting the flavour come through. It's going to be more suited for your simple flavours rather than a complex one. Next pro for me can be battery life at 550 mAh. With it being such a small device, you aren't going to expect a massive battery on this, and them pushing it up a little bit more over the standard 360 for a very small device, you know, I'm going to give that a pro because you get that bit of extra life out of it. If you're going to use this just taking the odd hit, then you're very much going to get most, if not all, day before you have to charge it. Next pro is going to be charge time. It's done just under an hour, so that's not the longest charge time. So can't complain about that. Next pro for me is going to be how easy it is, especially again looking at this from a new vapor perspective rather than an experienced one. You know, it just simply pulls out, fills up, and then push back in. The only con I will have that I'll get into just a bit about the fill hole, but generally, yeah, it just hooks up and you're good to go. Next pro for me, it's going to be the size of it. It is a small device. It is. I've got nothing to hand, but pretty much that is not even half the size. About half the size of my hand. That's it. So it's very much one you can just put in your pocket or just hold in your hand like that. There's no button, so there'll be no auto firing, and it's an auto draw system. Feels solid. It's a plastic type mod, but it does feel solid in your hand. And yeah, you know, the airflow is nice and restricted if that's something that you are after. And just overall, it performs really well. In terms of the liquids through this, through regular free-base nicotine, what you'd call your standard e-liquid, performs really well, wicks really well. You know, that coil does keep up when you're taking a few pulls. And yeah, it's no complaints on there. Nicotine salt wise, and how does it perform with that? It's hit and miss. Mainly because if you go for longer pulls with this, which you can do, it does allow you to take a longer pull, but with nicotine salts, it then seems to struggle to wick. So pretty much if you're going to, I mean, I've got nicotine salts in this now. Pull like that, you're going to be fine, but if you find yourself wanting to take a longer pull, you are definitely going to get a dry hit from that. But for standard e-liquid, it works well, no issues whatsoever. We'll get into the cons of this now. First con for me is that the shape and design of it is not going to have a mass market appeal. And you know yourself, if you get a pod system and you look at what's popular on the market right now, you know, you've got stuff like the Nord, you've got the Drag Nano, you've got Caliburn, the AVP. You know, all these pod systems seem to have a similar profile, and that's what makes them popular. Something like this, I can't see having a mass appeal, and simply because it doesn't really look like a pod system, not in the standard way. Next con for me is going to be the lack of coloured indicator lights. That was a bit of a con for me, mainly because it kind of goes white and then red. You know, there's no in between there to really gauge battery life. Next con is going to be something that I was mentioning then. It's the fill bung there being situated on the side rather than underneath, for example. So what you can find if you don't put that pod in properly, see if I can just lift it up. If you don't close it over properly, say you're in a rush, it'll get caught on the side, as you can see there. So that's a bit of a con because, again, going from the perspective of new vapor, I can see that happening a bit more often than what they would like to happen. Next con is going to be that does pull out quite quick. You know, there's a little bit of resistance. There's a little bit. I mean, me just doing that, as you can see, it's not completely locked into place. It's not very easily pulling out. You know, I've not had any issues with it coming out of my pocket or anything, taking it out, but you can see there's no lock mechanism in place. Say the charge time being around an hour, it's a little bit on the long side. I mean, anything over that would have been a major con, but yeah, you know, something like 550, you'd still want charging about 45 minutes. This is pushing about 50 to 55 minutes. So to be honest, I'm scraping a barrel there with that one, but you know, you get the idea. And for me, I don't like that it's a very restricted airflow. You don't seem to be getting any airflow coming from underneath the pod. and I think that does, as I said before, it does restrict the flavour far too much. So yeah, other than that, there's not really any more cons I can say about this. So we'll get into the overall of this now. And overall, this it isn't a bad pod system. You know, I've brought you some really good ones, I've brought you some bad ones. This kind of sits in the middle. It's not really fantastic and it's not really terrible. It's one of them pod systems, if you're going to pick up cheap, and if you're going to, especially if you're going to pick up for about £15, and if you want to give it to someone who's looking to move from smoking to vaping, then certainly this could well appeal. As I said before, I don't see the mass market appeal in the design, but as a pod system go, it's right bang in the middle of the road. It's one of them ones, it's going to be on price rather than performance that you would pick this one up. It's just a bit of a disappointment that the nicotine salts don't perform better, because if they did, maybe it would have been a really nice universal kit then, to be able to go from both. But other than that, there's not much else I can say about it. It's an average pod system. It's not going to blow you away, but it's going to serve you well if you need something small and this sort of shape that you just want to take out and just take the odd hit with. So yeah, that was the Hotcig Kubi. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Next week on the pod series, I've got something really special. I've been really looking forward to using it, and I've just started using it this week, so certainly check it out next week. You won't be disappointed. As always, say thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Stay safe. And keep vaping.